Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please exercise caution while watching. The courtroom was tense. You could hear the air conditioning hum like a warning. Reporters had been lined up since dawn. Security was doubled. And inside the chamber, every eye was glued to the entrance, because no one expected him to show up, not for this case. But then the bailiff called out a name. It was a name no one expected. Thomas Dexter Jakes, please take the stand. The room fell silent. It was Bishop T.D. Jakes. He wore a charcoal gray suit, not flashy, not loud, but the presence he carried made the courtroom feel smaller, like the walls had drawn in closer to hear what he was about to say. The popular pastor, author, and leader of the Potter's House, a megachurch with a global reach, stepped into the witness stand. T.D. Jakes was a titan of faith, his sermons a lifeline for millions seeking hope and redemption. His voice, deep and resonant, had guided souls through pain and triumph, but today he was not here to preach. He was here to unveil a series of private text messages between himself and Diddy, messages that would reveal a story so shocking it left the world questioning everything they thought they knew. Before we continue, hit that like button to support our video. For decades, T.D. Jakes had been a beacon of moral authority, counseling presidents, inspiring artists, and building a ministry that touched lives across continents. His connection to Diddy, though, was a quieter thread, woven in the spaces where faith met fame, where spirituality crossed paths with show business. Only a few knew how deep that bond ran, and fewer still could have imagined that Jakes would take the stand to reveal secrets that threatened to reshape perceptions of both men. As he settled into the witness chair, his face was a mask of resolve, tinged with a sorrow that hinted at the burden he carried. Jakes' journey to this moment began in the small town of South Charleston, West Virginia, where he preached in modest churches, his voice echoing through wooden pews. Through sheer determination, unwavering faith, and a charisma that could move mountains, he transformed the Potter's House into a global ministry, reaching millions with messages of purpose and resilience. His influence stretched beyond the pulpit, touching Hollywood, politics, and the music industry. It was in this last world that he met Diddy, a man whose name was synonymous with ambition, wealth, and unrelenting power. The gavel struck. The judge's voice rang out. "You may proceed." Jakes nodded. His voice was calm and measured, but there was something heavy in the air around him, something unsaid which was not guilt or revenge, something closer to duty. "I did not come here to destroy anyone," Jakes said. "I came here because the truth does not hide forever." Their first encounter, Jakes testified, was in 2005 at a star-studded fundraiser in New York City. Sean was larger than life, Jakes told the court, his voice steady but reflective. He walked into the room and it was like the air shifted. He spoke about giving back, about using his platform to lift up communities. "I saw a man with vision, someone I thought could align with the work we were doing at the Potter's House." The two bonded over shared goals, empowering the underserved, creating opportunities for those overlooked, and blending faith with action. Diddy proposed a partnership, suggesting initiatives that could merge Bad Boy's influence with the church's mission. But what began as a hopeful collaboration grew into something far more complex. Jakes became a familiar face at some of Diddy's events, album release parties, charity galas, private dinners in penthouses and mansions. Diddy, in turn, attended services at the Potter's House, sitting in the front row, his presence sparking whispers among the congregation. Behind the public displays of friendship was a private line of communication, a series of texts that Jakes had kept hidden until this moment. Holding up his phone, its screen glowing under the courtroom's harsh lights, Jakes spoke softly. "These messages are why I am here," he said. "I never wanted to share them. I prayed I would never have to, but the truth has a way of demanding its place." The room leaned forward, the tension thick enough to choke on, as Jakes began to reveal the contents of his exchanges with Diddy. The earliest texts, from 2006, were warm and purposeful. Diddy wrote, "Bishop, let's do something real for the people. You got the spirit, I got the streets." Jakes responded with enthusiasm, proposing mentorship programs for those chasing dreams in music and beyond. "I thought we were building something good," Jakes said. "I thought we were on the same path." But as the years passed, the tone of the messages shifted. Diddy's words grew mysterious, laced with phrases that hinted at something beyond charity or collaboration. A 2008 text read, "Bishop, You are in the family now. You know what that means. Jakes admitted he dismissed it, thinking it was about loyalty to their shared mission. I was wrong, he said. It was about something else. By 2009, the texts took on a new weight. Diddy invited Jakes to a private event in Miami, calling it a celebration of success. Jakes testified that he expected a gathering of industry leaders, perhaps a fundraiser for their joint initiatives. Instead, he arrived at a sprawling estate where the atmosphere felt heavy, unnatural. The house was filled with people I didn't recognize, Jakes said. Some were laughing, some were silent, too silent. There were papers being passed around, conversations in corners, looks that said more than words. Jakes left early, citing a sermon he needed to prepare, but the memory clung to him like a shadow. A text from Diddy that night read, "Bishop, you felt the vibe. It is bigger than us. Stay in it." The courtroom was filled with whispers as Jakes described how the invitations kept coming. Diddy's texts grew more insistent, urging Jakes to attend exclusive gatherings in Los Angeles, New York, and the Caribbean. He called them family gatherings, Jakes said, but they didn't feel like family. They felt like something else. A 2010 message stood out. "Bishop, you preach about trust, but you gotta trust me on this. Come to the next one." Jakes declined, and Diddy's reply was sharp. "Don't step back now, Bishop. You are already in." Jakes also revealed a 2011 encounter that made him no more. He was invited to a private dinner in Atlanta, hosted by Diddy at a penthouse with floor-to-ceiling views of the city. "I thought it was a chance to reconnect, to steer him back toward the light," Jakes said. "But when I got there, it was not about ministry or music. It was about power." The room was filled with men in tailored suits, women who seemed uneasy despite the champagne, and an undercurrent that felt more like a deal being struck than a celebration. "I heard words like loyalty and commitment, but they were not about faith," Jakes said. "They were about control." A text from that night, sent at 12:47 a.m., read, "Bishop, you saw what is possible. Don't walk away from it." Jakes said he didn't respond, but the message haunted him. "I started to see the strings," he told the court. "I started to see that Sean's world was not just about music or giving back. It was about something deeper, something darker." The courtroom sat in stunned silence as Jakes revealed more texts, each one peeling back layers of a world few had seen. A 2012 message referenced a special event that required discretion. Jakes declined, citing his church obligations, but Diddy's response was scary. "You don't say no to this, Bishop. It is how we build." Jakes said he began to pull back, limiting their interactions to public settings. But the texts kept coming, each one a reminder of the invisible ties binding him to Diddy's empire. One of the most shocking moments came when Jakes described a 2013 event in Las Vegas. Diddy had invited him to a private club, promising a night of inspiration. Jakes arrived to find a scene that unsettled him. There were people moving through the rooms like they were on a script, he said. "I saw young faces, hopeful but afraid. I heard whispers about expectations, about keeping things in the circle. It didn't sit right." A text from Diddy later that night read, "Bishop, you are part of this now. Don't let it slip." Jake's voice then grew heavy as he spoke about the people he encountered at these events, men and women chasing dreams, drawn to Diddy's promise of fame and fortune. They were so full of potential, he said, but what they found was not an opportunity, it was a trap. He hinted at the rumors that had long swirled around Diddy, stories of parties where boundaries were blurred, where loyalty was demanded, where strange requests were made. "I heard talk of things I could not believe," Jake said. "Things about excess, about control, about rooms filled with bottles of oil for reasons I could not understand. I prayed it wasn't true, but the text made it harder to ignore." When Jakes revealed a 2014 text that referenced one of these gatherings, the courtroom erupted in murmurs. Diddy wrote, "Bishop, the next one is different. You will see the real blessings." Jakes declined, but the invitation lingered in his mind. "I started to wonder what kind of blessings happened in the shadows," he said. "I started to wonder what I had been pulled into." Jakes also described a confrontation in 2015. During a private meeting at the Potter's house, he challenged Diddy about the rumors. "I said, Sean, what is happening at these events? What are you asking of these people?" Jakes testified. Diddy's response was cold. He said, "Bishop, you talk about faith, but you don't understand power. This is how empires are built." Jakes said he left that meeting shaken, realizing that Diddy's world was far from the one he had hoped to influence. The text from that period grew more intense. A 2016 message read, "Bishop, you know what is at stake. Don't make me remind you. Jakes said he did not know if it was a threat to his ministry, his reputation, or something else. But I felt it, he said. I felt the weight of knowing too much. He began to carry that weight in silence, praying for wisdom, wrestling with whether to speak or stay quiet for the sake of his church. The courtroom was still recovering from T.D. Jakes' revelations when he shifted to a new chapter of his story, one that had not been told before. His voice, steady but heavy with memory, drew the room into a moment from 2017 that he said changed how he saw his relationship with Diddy and his own purpose as a man of faith. It was a chilly autumn evening in Chicago, and Jakes had been invited to what Diddy described as a summit at a downtown hotel. I thought it was about expanding our community outreach, Jakes told the court, his eyes distant. Sean had a way of making everything sound noble, but what I found that night was far from noble. The summit was held in a penthouse suite, its windows overlooking the glittering Chicago skyline. Jakes expected a room of community leaders, perhaps a few industry insiders, all gathered to plan initiatives for the city's underserved neighborhoods. Instead, he walked into a space filled with unfamiliar faces, men in sharp suits who spoke in low tones, women who moved with a cautious grace, and a palpable sense of secrecy that made Jakes' skin crawl. It was not a summit, he said. It was a stage, and I didn't know my role. Diddy greeted him warmly, guiding him through the room with a hand on his shoulder. He introduced me as the bishop who brings the light, Jakes recalled. But the light was not welcome there. The conversations were about deals, not dreams, about leverage, not love. Jakes testified that he overheard some of the discussions that set him on edge. Talk of exclusive circles, mutual benefits, and keeping things tight. One man, whose face Jakes could not place, pulled Diddy aside and whispered something about securing the assets. Jakes did not know what it meant, but the phrase stuck with him, cold and heavy like a stone. As the night wore on, Jakes noticed a side room where a smaller group had gathered. The door was slightly ajar, and through it he glimpsed a table covered with documents and what looked like a stack of cash. I didn't go closer, Jakes said. I didn't want to know. But I saw enough to feel the wrongness of it. Diddy caught his eye and smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He said, "Bishop, relax. This is how we make things happen," Jakes testified. But I knew then that these things were not what I had signed up for. Jakes left the suite early, claiming a flight to catch, but the weight of that night followed him. 2 days later, he received a text from Diddy that sent a shiver through him. "Chicago was just the start, Bishop. We are building something eternal." Jakes didn't respond, but the words echoed in his mind, a puzzle he could not solve. "I kept asking myself what eternal meant in Sean's world," he said. "I kept asking God why I was there." The courtroom listened, captivated, as Jakes described a phone call that came a month later, in November 2017. It was late past midnight and the number was blocked. When he answered, a woman's voice, trembling but urgent, spoke quickly. She said, "Bishop, you were in Chicago. You saw it. Please, you have to do something." Jakes testified. She would not give her name, would not say more. She just kept repeating, "It is not what you think. It is bigger." Then the line went dead. Jakes said he sat up all night replaying the call, wondering who she was and what she had seen. "I did not know if she was warning me or begging for help," he said, but her voice stayed with me. Jakes testified that he tried to trace the call, but it led nowhere. He reached out to Diddy, asking if everything was all right, hoping for clarity. Diddy's response was a text, "Bishop, don't chase ghosts, focus on the mission." The vagueness only deepened Jakes' unease. "I started to see that Sean's mission wasn't mine," he said. "I started to see that I had been pulled into something I could not reconcile with my faith." The prosecutor asked why Jakes had not spoken out sooner. His answer was raw and honest. "I was afraid," he said, "not just for myself, but for my church, my family, the people who depend on me. I thought if I stayed quiet, I could keep doing God's work. But silence is not God's work when it protects the guilty." The jury leaned forward, captivated by the pastor's candor. He began to question whether his silence was protecting his ministry or betraying it. "I asked God for a sign," Jakes said. "I asked him to show me how to carry this burden." The sign came in early 2018 during a quiet moment in his Dallas office. Jakes received another text from Diddy, this one referencing a gathering in Los Angeles. He said, "Bishop, this one is special. You will see the vision," Jakes recalled. "But I had seen enough visions. I told him I could not make it." Diddy's reply was curt. "You can't sit this one out. We are family." Jake said he felt the weight of that word, family, like a chain. "I realized then that Sean's idea of family was not about love," he said. "It was about loyalty, and loyalty had a price." The courtroom was silent as Jake spoke about his struggles, his voice raw with emotion. "I am here because I could not stay silent anymore," he said. "I am here because those faces, those voices deserve to be heard." He hinted at the broader implications of what he had seen, suggesting that Diddy's events were part of a larger web, one that thrived on power and secrecy. It was not just one man, Jake said. It was a system, a machine that fed on dreams and demanded silence. Jake's testimony grew more explosive when he revealed a text from 2020 that hinted at Diddy's legal troubles. He wrote, "Bishop, things might get messy. Stay clean," Jakes said. "I did not know what he meant, but I knew it wasn't good." By then, Jakes had distanced himself completely, declining invitations and avoiding Diddy's calls. But the texts persisted, each one a reminder of the secrets they shared. One of the most unbelievable moments was when Jakes described a 2021 encounter at a charity gala in Miami. Diddy pulled him aside and handed him a small package. He said, "This is for your records, Bishop. Keep it safe." Jakes testified, "I didn't open it. I didn't want to know what was inside, but I kept it because I knew it might matter one day." Jakes turned the package over to the authorities and, though its contents were not revealed in court, the implication hung heavy in the air. Jakes also spoke about the toll of his silence on his ministry. "I stood in the pulpit every Sunday, preaching about truth, but I was carrying a lie," he said. "I saw the faces of my congregation, people who trusted me, and I felt I was betraying them." He describes sleepless nights, praying for courage, wrestling with guilt. "I asked God, 'Why me?' Jakes said, and he answered, 'Because you must.'" The courtroom sat in stunned silence as Jakes revealed one final text sent just months before his arrest. It was from Diddy, dated August 2024, "Bishop, you know what is coming, stay out of it." Jakes said he didn't respond, but the message pushed him to act. "I realized I could not wait for someone else to speak," he said. "I had to do it myself." Jakes' testimony was not just about Diddy, it was about a system that enabled men like him to thrive. He spoke about the entertainment industry's unspoken rules, where power came at a cost and silence was the currency. "It is not just Sean," Jakes said. "There are others, people in boardrooms, in studios, who know what is happening but turn away. They profit from the dreams of the hopeful and the vulnerable." He hinted at the broader implications of Diddy's influence, describing a network that stretched beyond music into other spheres of power. "I saw men of influence at those events," Jakes said. "Men who should have stood for more, men who knew better." The courtroom buzzed with speculation, wondering who else might be implicated as the trial continued. Jakes' voice then softened as he spoke about the people caught in Diddy's world. "I met men and women who wanted to create, to shine," he said. "But they were told their dreams came with conditions. They were told to stay silent, to follow the rules. Some did not make it out." He paused, his eyes sweeping the jury. "I am here for them," he said, "for the ones who can't speak, who don't have a voice, who don't have a stage." Jakes revealed that he had been in contact with others who had seen what he had seen. "I've spent the last year praying with them, listening to them," he said. "Some are ready to speak, some are still afraid. But they are watching this trial, and they are finding their strength." His words left the courtroom breathless, the weight of his story settling over the jury, the spectators, everyone. He had seen something in Diddy's empire that did not align with the man he thought Diddy was. He had heard a voice that begged for action, and now he was standing in the light, ready to face whatever came next. In one last moment, Jakes addressed Diddy directly. "Sean, I prayed for you," he said, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. "I prayed you would find the path to righteousness. But you chose power over principle. You chose control over compassion. You built an empire, but at what cost?" The courtroom was silent, the weight of his words settling over everyone like a storm cloud. As Jake stepped down from the stand, the room exploded with reactions. Reporters rushed to file their stories, spectators whispered about the implications, and Diddy's legal team huddled in urgent discussion. For those who had followed Jakes' ministry, the revelations were staggering. Was the man who preached faith and redemption entangled in a world of secrets? And for Diddy's fans, the question loomed larger. Was the bad boy empire built on more than music? Jake's testimony was a turning point not just for the trial, but for the broader conversation about power and accountability. His courage in leaking those texts, in standing up to a man who once called him a brother, opened a door that could not be closed. The world was watching, waiting to see who would walk through it next. The trial is far from over. As new witnesses prepare to take the stand, the story of Diddy's empire and the secrets it holds continues to unfold. The texts Jakes revealed are just the beginning, a glimpse into a world where dreams are leveraged, where loyalty comes at a price. Who else will come forward? What other truths will surface? The answers are out there, waiting to be told.